welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance all the way up at Turf Moor versus Burnley. But before I get into all that, you already know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button. As you all know, we're trying to grow this channel. We can only do it with your support by hitting that like button to allow it to get into the algorithm. But without further ado, we have to get into this Burnley review. Chelsea. Unbelievable. This is exactly what I wanted after an international break. I wanted Chelsea to come out with intent, not really having to get out of first gear playing against Burnley, but I wanted to see in a performance, and I think we got one. Obviously, with a lot of guys going away from travel, and all over the world, and with Chelsea having the early kickoff at Burnley way up north, there was going to be challenges there to see Chelsea come out and play their best football. And, we rested guys. Caicedo didn't see the pitch. Fofana wasn't even in the squad. And, we rested a lot of our key players. Estaval was about to come on about the 87th minute, didn't see any action whatsoever. And Chelsea were very effective in securing a 2-0 win all the way up at Turf Moor after an international break, which is exactly what you want when you consider that Chelsea have a couple of really key fixtures coming up in the midweek against Barcelona in the Champions League, and then of course the following weekend versus Arsenal, which is very important in our Premier League ascendancy. So I thought we did well. We came out with intent. We didn't really have to get out of first gear when we got the 3 points, which is exactly what you want. We're going to be talking about specifically the role of Cucurella in this game. I thought that he was very, very influential in breaking the game. He found himself in space time and time again, and it was his movement that basically opened the game up for Chelsea after the adjustment that Maresca made, tactical adjustment in the first half. We're also going to be talking about the role of DELAP'S in contrast to that of João Pedro, how their partnership was working and what was good, what wasn't good. We're also going to be looking at the role of TOSIN'S as the quarterback in the side, and a lot of people have Andrey Santos as the man of the match. We're going to talk about him, but for me, Neto was the man of the match for his interventions, his contributions into the game. But we are certainly going to be speaking on Andrey Santos as well. Now, that was a very, very professional performance from Chelsea. Obviously, we didn't have to get out of first gear, as I mentioned earlier, and we were able to open up spaces after we made a tactical switch in the first half. And for me, one of the unsung heroes in this game was without a doubt Marc Cucurella. I thought that his movement, his understanding of pulling people out of position, and his tactical awareness was very much on display the entire match. And we're going to look at a couple instances of what I'm talking about, because obviously Chelsea came out thinking that Burnley, myself included, I thought Burnley was going to be playing with a back five, and they're just going to try and sit deep and soak up pressure and trying to hit us on the counter. But they came out the exact opposite. They played with a 4-3-3, and they were looking to press our midfield, like overwhelm our midfield three, and basically just take away the spaces. And once Maresca realized what the tactical setup was for Burnley, we switched immediately to a 3-1-3-2, which basically had Andrey Santos isolated as a solo 6, and we saw Cucurella inverting into the midfield, playing that 8-10 role, but also in the free role, because if you watched him play throughout that match, you noticed that he was drifting all over the pitch. Didn't matter where it was. He was basically pulling the likes of Leslie Ugochukwu out of position the entire match. That was his assignment, pulling him out of position to get players like Enzo Fernandez or João Pedro into space, and it worked to perfection, as you can see here. The first thing that I wanted to highlight here was obviously the setup. Obviously, as you can see here, Chelsea have changed their shape now. They've gone to a 3-1-3-3. Enzo is designed to be the free man here. They're looking to get Enzo on the ball into space, and you do that by, of course, occupying their midfielders. And the first thing that they did was, and the thing that I've noticed here is, when you look at what is happening with Cucurella, look at the spaces that he's occupying on the pitch here. He's almost on the right side of the pitch. Now, obviously, this is a very aggressive way of playing, because if we get countered here, that left side of the pitch, we're hoping that Chalobah can withstand the pressure and can, snuff out the danger. But what we're seeing here is Cucurella is basically in the free role as a midfielder, and he's basically right side of the pitch as a left back. And this is basically designed to pull Burnley out of their shape. We're looking to get them and isolate the likes of Enzo Fernandez. And you can see right here, as you can see right here, we finally get Enzo Fernandez isolated. He can run into space, and Chelsea are looking to get into their attacking sequences. But this was happening time and time again, and it was this action that produced a lot of Chelsea's, A1 scoring opportunities, with Cucurella again being involved in most of them. Here he is breaking into space. This is later on in the first half where, he plays in DELAP'S, who obviously has an opportunity there to score and doesn't take it. But, it's again good movement by Cucurella. The adjustment was made by Burnley in the first half right here, where you see Cullen now is responsible for taking Cucurella when he comes centrally, and he leaves Leslie. So he basically passes off Leslie. He passes off João Pedro to Leslie. As you can see right there, he's pointing. He's telling Leslie, go take João Pedro, and he's going to handle Cucurella. And here's where I'm starting to look at what we get from our center backs, because obviously Tosin was a quarterback in this game, and he was actually quite good. But there's situations where you want to see him be better and read the game better. And this is what I mean by read the game. There was two opportunities here in this one sequence where, João Pedro makes a run in behind and he's into space because Leslie's not really paying attention to him. He could have played him in there. There's another opportunity just after it where you see the likes of DELAP'S, and I think it's Enzo Fernandez making a run in behind, and they're in the space as well, and it's just not recognized by Tosin. And this is what you want from your center back. If you're going to be the quarterback, you're going to be the one that is going to be initiating attacks. You have to recognize these situations. He did do it on a few occasions in the game. He plays in DELAP'S, and it's with his left foot, to be fair, like a lofted ball over the top. He plays in DELAP'S, and he's just crowded out. But again, a nice ball in behind. And again, here for the goal, you can see where he plays in Cucurella makes the run, and it's that breaks the defense there. Cucurella making that run, and then obviously Jamie Gittins over the top finds Neto back post, and Chelsea are in, and we score. But again, it was the ball over the top by Tosin that I think broke the play. He does it again here, a little bit behind Cucurella, but I get a quality opportunity for Chelsea to get in behind and, break that back line. And, if we read these situations, if Tosin reads these situations a little bit more effectively throughout the game, I think Chelsea are in a position where they're breaking down the Burnley team. Like, I thought that tactically we eviscerated them. Like, obviously the scoreline doesn't really reflect what we were actually doing in our build-up phase and what we're doing to pull them out of shape. Thought Cucurella was fantastic, but if we recognize these opportunities to split them apart more readily, we're getting 1v1 opportunities time and time again. But credit to Maresca for realizing that we're in situations here where we can really threaten their back line, and Tosin for finally recognizing when those situations were arising. Now, I wanted to quickly just touch on the play of Liam Delap throughout the game, because I thought when I first watched the game, I thought that he was very, very poor. Just the decision making was just not what you need in a Chelsea striker, and he was just wasteful in opportunities that were presented to him. And upon second watch, I thought that his link-up play and build-up play was actually quite good. It was just the decision making in the final third that was letting him down. But I wanted to look at a couple of situations with his link-up play with João Pedro and see if that partnership is actually showing any real quality. I thought that there was some good understanding without having the real fluidity and connection. When you watch even the likes of João Pedro with Cole Palmer, you can understand that, you can see that they're on the same wavelength. They understand the runs, they understand the movement of each other. And as much as I didn't think that DELAP'S and João Pedro were bad in terms of their link-up play and understanding with each other, I just think it needs to be cleaned up. When you look at this situation here, João Pedro comes deep to create that overload in the midfield. Obviously, what we're trying to do is, utilize our 4 versus 3. If they play with 3 in the middle, we want to play with 4. If they're playing with 4, we're playing with 5. And if they're playing with 5, a back 5, we're trying to attack their back line with 6. And here you see he drops deep, he lays it off to DELAP'S, and DELAP'S just, doesn't really read what was happening there, and he basically slows down the attacking move there. Like when we're Chelsea are more fluid in those situations, what you will see is Delap understands what Pedro's doing there, and he's getting on, and he's either laying it off to him, or he's getting into areas where he can, shift that ball quickly, and he just doesn't do it here. He doesn't really see what's happening. I think their partnership is burgeoning. You see here a beautiful dummy by João Pedro, and what you want to see here is you want to see Delap lay it back off to João Pedro, who's making the run into the box after we've already broken their line, and he just doesn't recognize it. Obviously you see here João Pedro's making the run, lays it off to Delap beautifully, and Neto's making that run near post. And obviously here Delap just does not trust his left enough to put that cross in, and it's just wayward. But overall, I thought his hold-up play, link-up play was actually quite good. It was just the decision making that was letting him down. On this situation here, he's making that run, he's bending his runs well. He gets in behind, and he has Enzo wide open, and the lack of a decision there to play him in is what keeps Chelsea from scoring the second goal that would effectively kill the game much earlier than it did. Again, Delap just needs to be better at reading the game and better at his decision making in the final third. There was at least 3 or 4 opportunities where I thought pass was a better option than shoot. Pass was a better option than retain possession, and he just doesn't see those yet. But in time, I think that the runs that he's making and the link-up play between him and João Pedro is starting to show that they have an understanding. It's just not quite as fluid as you need it to be, really tearing these teams apart and scoring 3s and 4s rather than 1s and 2s. Now, finally, I wanted to say this. My man of the match was Pedro Neto. I think that he was very much influential in everything we did offensively. Probably should have had a goal and an assist to his name. And he was very, very influential, obviously match winner as well. But very, very close second, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me, was Andrey Santos. I thought that his defensive contributions, his reading of the game was exceptional throughout the game. He was just all over the pitch, did the work of 2 men on a lot of the occasions. He was reading the game well, as I said before, and his interventions certainly snuffed out a lot of the danger that Burnley did present, which wasn't much, but again, without Andrey Santos, I think Chelsea would have at least conceded 1 goal today. He was just everywhere, imperious in the tackle, the reading of the game. His interceptions were incredible, and for me, this was without question his best game as a Chelsea player. I don't think that he's really hit the ground running coming from France, coming back to Chelsea. And I think that like Enzo Maresca's used him in that more 8-10 role, the role that we see Enzo Fernandez playing in. And it's clear to me that his best role for Chelsea right now is that 6-8 role, playing out from the back, breaking up play, the guy that is looking, if Reece James is getting forward, he's basically playing that right back position. He's covering from there. And that's why I thought his reading of the game was actually so good. He was, when people were out of position, like getting forward, he was the guy that was filling the gaps of space in behind. And I thought that he was fantastic in that role, winning the tackles. And if he can continue on this path, obviously in this 6 role, you need him to be also the conduit for us to build attacks from the back. And for whatever reason, Burnley just sat on him. I think Fleming wasn't really worried about the likes of Tosin and Chalobah in terms of our build-up play. And you saw Tosin have a fantastic game with his long distribution because Fleming was basically just sitting on Santos. But, in other games where teams are looking to take out our center backs, we're going to need him to be, if he's going to play that 6 role, we're going to need him to dictate play from deep. He wasn't called upon to do that in this game against Burnley, which is why I think he was more than just mildly effective. He was a guy that was just like intercepting and being a defensive stalwart for us. But in other games, and this is where I think that he needs to, be better when we play against different opponents, when he's getting on the ball in the first phase and second phase of our build-up, he's going to have to dictate the tempo, and he's going to have to dictate our attacking moves. And in those situations, I want to see him be a little bit more assertive and understand what we're trying to do. But defensively, there's no question about it. He understands what he needs to do in those roles, and it's just a matter of time before he gets up to speed with what we want to do offensively. But credit to him. Like very, very close to the man of the match. I thought that he was, again, very, very influential in what we wanted to do in terms of snuffing out danger. But I think Neto edged it just because match winner, and offensively, I thought he was magnificent. But we have a lot to see from Andrey Santos going forward, and I think that this was a good game to build confidence and his ability on the ball. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Short and sweet. Chelsea didn't have to get out of the first gear to beat this Burnley team, and this is exactly what you want in a game after the international break, where people are a little bit tired. There's a little bit of jadedness coming back, lots of travel, airplanes, airports, all that stuff. You come back and you're playing in the North early kickoff, and you basically just tactically eviscerate them. Like, Enzo Maresca deserves a lot of credit. I think it was the 7th minute mark of the game where he realized that Burnley were not going to be playing a back five. They're going to be playing a 4-3-3. He adjusted tactics, and that adjustment in the tactics led to everything. Like I said, I thought Cucurella broke the game for us. He was the guy that was making all the runs. He was the guy that was moving Ukechukwu all over the pitch and allowing guys to get into space, the likes of Enzo Fernandez, the likes of João Pedro. And again, just a tactical masterclass from Enzo Maresca. We did not have to use our better, our heavier hitters to win the game. This is just exactly what you want to see. Andrey Santos, very close to man in the match, a guy that came into the game. I wasn't expecting him to start, I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect him to start, but came into the game, played that 6th role to perfection, was, imperious in the tackle, and read the game quite well. What I want to see from our center backs, in particular Tosin, when he's in possession, is just recognize the situations where we can get in behind a little bit more readily. He was good at times, but there were opportunities where Chelsea could have been 2v1 that he was just not, he just wasn't switched on. I think that later on in the game, after Cucurella had a few talks with him, he realized where those runs were coming from. He was punching them in quite early and effectively. We just need to do more of that. We go into Barca next, and I don't know about you guys, but I expect Esteban to start this game. I think this is a game that's tailor-made for him. I think that Barcelona is going to be giving us lots of space in behind, and they're going to trust their defenders to go 1v1 versus Esteban, which I think could be to their detriment. But it's going to be a tough match. It's at the Bridge. We're going to see Cucurella. We're going to see the likes of, obviously Caicedo come back into the midfield. It's going to be him and Pedri that are obviously going to be battling, and in those types of duels, I expect Caicedo to be imperious, and only time will tell. It's going to be a fantastic match. I'm looking forward to it, but I want to see Chelsea step up. We're going to need these 3 points in the Champions League. I want to see them step up and deliver a performance similar to the ones that we saw versus the likes of PSG in the Club World Cup, versus the likes of Liverpool in the league. We need that sort of performance. We need that sort of concentration. And if we get that, I think that we can get the 3 points. But until then, keep the blue flag flying high, and up the Chelsea. Peace!